So I've had it up to here. I can't breathe again. I'm done. This is going almost 3 years of the same complaints over and over again. Now, this place was sold to us as law.
Opposition parties, including the PDP and the Labour Party, have criticized the state government over poor sanitation, citing complaints from residents about foul odors in various parts of the city. And not just the foul odor, like you did see in the video we just played. They had also complained about the quality of water.
However, Commissioner for Environment and Water Resources, Tokunbo Wahab, refuted the allegations, insisting that Lagos is undergoing structured environmental reforms, including modern landfill management, cleaner waterways and improved sanitation systems as part of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu's urban transformation agenda, reiterating its commitment to advanced waste processing and sustainability initiatives to maintain Lagos as a globally competitive city. Join us this morning on Breakfast Central to discuss the city's sanitation and hygiene is the General Manager of the Lagos State Environmental Protection Agency, LASEPA, Dr. Babatunde Ajayi. Very warm welcome to you and thanks for joining us on Breakfast Central.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good to have you.
Thank you.
Now let's cut to the chase. There's a cross-section of Lagosians that believe the city is smelling. We saw the video that went viral of the NYSC core member that really struck a nerve. Now, is she exaggerating? Is she lying? Or is she exposing an inconvenient truth? What is the true situation with sanitation in Lagos?
Okay. First, I think that whatever she did was, done out of her own frustration, and she said what her supposed reality was. And I don't think you would paintbrush an entire city that is reputed to be one of the cleanest in West Africa, because someone has a street that is dirty. With the amount of work and the booming, teeming population of Lagos, you would not expect to describe an entire city with one person's street. Now, there are different parts of every city, right? But irrespective of where you are in Lagos, you will not go out every day and not see a street sweeper cleaning, right? On my way here today, I've seen at least 10 different street sweepers on different streets. I mean, on your road here, clearly, it doesn't smell, it doesn't stink. So if someone has a personal experience in her own corner, I think that, they have the right to speak their truth, but also you don't then label an entire city dirty because your street stinks.
So whilst I completely agree with you that Rita Ushie did share her experience and, that was her experience, what I do not agree with is the fact that her experience generated a conversation. And if you go on social media, there were many people, whilst there were many who spoke against it, there were also many in support of it who shared the same perspective that they believe Lagos is smelling. And they cited many instances. For example, when you go to Lekki, they're talking about how a number of these fancy, bougie restaurants by the sea, once you stay there, you're not really getting the fresh air that you're paying to get because you're paying exorbitant prices for food. So that has been a collective experience by a number of people, even though there are others who disagree. So is it a matter here of, semantics or trying to look good? Because Lagos State has come out, and I'm sure we'll get into that, with some of their plans and the projects. But is there even an admission that there is a problem here that even needs to be fixed?
So to the extent that, people can voice their complaints and exactly tell what their experiences are, I think a very minority of the city would have concerns with cleaning and, sanitation. When you talk about restaurants by the ocean, I mean, we all go to these places. We don't share the same experience. Everybody goes to all of these restaurants, and they are all over the island. They are all over the mainland. I mean, well, mostly on the island. And, if anybody smells things from these restaurants, because the lagoon is moving, I mean, then it means it is that same restaurant that is polluting. Now, from the EPA, we have shut down a few of them for this exact infraction. If you pour waste into the ocean, you will get shut down for pouring waste in the ocean, right? So these are concerns, right? However, I think that, clearly we can see that there's an opposition agenda, on this matter, and people have sort of exaggerated and blown it out of proportion. If people have concerns in their own community or in their own neighborhood, where they should have taken responsibility for their own sanitation and paid their waste disposal fees and have their waste carted away, then, I mean, when they don't do that, then they should take responsibility. Government will, as much as possible, clean up and clear off the waterways, and we do that all the time. There are videos and pictures all over the place where Loma is clearing the waterways. Yesterday, we still cleared the canals in different corners of Lagos. There's a lot of work going on. If you have 15,000 waste sweepers every day, you have tons and tons of trucks moving around Lagos every day in every corner, then I think there's work that is going on into these things. Also, in as much as people complain in these corners, they refuse to take responsibility for their own contribution, to the waste disposal problem.
Now, I'm happy you mentioned the waste disposal issue, and there are two legs to my question here. Number one is LASEPA does enforce waste disposal rules in Lagos, and quite frankly, if you go around the city, we would see waste in gutters, in walkways, and some places, even with the number of street sweepers that we see deployed in Lagos. I see them every day when I drive. So is it a problem with enforcement, especially Kudirat Abiola way, or is LASEPA overwhelmed with the bad behavior of Lagosians?
So first, there's Loma that cuts away solid waste and does the logistics of moving waste and managing solid waste. However, it would be nice for us to, go back a little in memory, down the memory lane. Right, growing up in Lagos, we know that we used to rake our gutters. Each person took responsibility for the gutters in front of their houses. You rake your gutters at the end of the month, Saturday morning, environmental sanitation. You rake it and then pour it in a basket. When the water drains out, you then dispose into these trucks, right? Government will not go in front of every single house to rake your gutters. The front of your house is your responsibility to rake. What has happened is, government has been in court for the environmental sanitation proclamation and how we can restrict movement. However, everybody is expected to take responsibility for the gutters in front of their house. It doesn't make sense, and it doesn't happen anywhere where government comes and cleans all the gutters in front of everybody's houses. The culture we grew up with was that you will take responsibility for the sanitation of the environment because it has dangerous implications on your health.
Yeah, but these guys are now bringing it to the main road. Like, there's a market area in Kudirat Abiola way. They bring out baskets, solid waste, and align it on the median.
So that's its second conversation. Now, that conversation of people bringing their waste to the main road is really just people who have refused to pay for waste disposal. Every city that we try to hold Lagos to standard with has people paying for waste disposal, even wastewater disposal, right? But in Lagos, people who didn't sort of grow up in a culture where they take responsibility for their waste want to put it in the middle of the road, of course, to embarrass government, and then to make sure that, government cuts it away without them taking responsibility for it. First of all, Loma has PSPs who go into every community with trucks to cut waste and then have people pay for the waste, right? People try to circumvent this process without taking responsibility. Therefore, they bring their waste to the road and embarrass government. Government still cuts it away every day, right? In the morning, a truck comes and cleans it out. Then again, it comes again the next day and things like that.
But that's an indictment in the government for lax enforcement, because if an example is made of them, they won't return it there the next day. And this is what causes the stench and the embarrassment for everyone.
So there's enforcement every day. And if you follow the media over the past 3-4 weeks, we have now started to post it. Every morning in every single, well, not every local government, but in certain areas where you have a high density of people who try to circumvent the laid down structures. We'll make examples of them. We arrest them, we charge them to court, we sentence them depending on the intensity of their crimes and things like that. But I certainly think that we need to get to that point where you have a lot of citizen participation and engagement, and people must begin to take responsibility for the waste that they generate. If you generate 5 kg of waste on the average per person, each person should know that they need to pay for their waste disposal.
So what do we need to do differently to encourage that awareness and that citizen participation? Because we find that when these same Nigerians go to the UK, for example, you know how to sort your waste, you know how to put the one that needs to be recycled, because there are systems, there are structures, and there are laws that govern their actions there. So I don't know, and this is just piggybacking on what he had said earlier, is it that we need to enforce stronger punitive measures to be able to deter people from throwing their waste anyhow? And what do we need to do to create that interest, and that passion on the part of citizens in how they take care of their waste?
So we all know that the only thing that creates passion is consequence. The only thing that creates that awareness, for doing the right thing is consequence. If you go into any city, any other city that you mentioned, fines and penalties are part of the ways that they put people in check. If you run a red light in some cities, you probably lose a point on driver's license. If you do a second one, you lose your vehicle and things like that, because the fines are strong, right? So for environmental offenses, globally, the fines don't rate environmental offenses as though they are life-threatening,
I mean, in Singapore, you can't even chew gum. It's almost life-threatening in Singapore.
Exactly. So we need to, now insist, and that is what we started to do. You would see that we now post people, who are erring on these different environmental regulations. We post them, we sanction them. People who do open defecation, we sanction them every day. Imagine arresting 20 people on the average every single day, and it has gone on for months and months, and you still catch people every morning. In some areas, you have to wake up as early as 5 a.m., get our staff to go arrest them and things like that.
All right.
I want to talk about this issue, and a lot of negotiators have mentioned the Olusosun landfill. That's around the motorway 7-Up area. There's a permanent stench there. I understand there are plans for Lagos State to shut it down in 18 months, and that's quite ambitious, because that landfill has been there for decades. What's the plan and for that entire 7-Up area?
So like the High Commissioner said yesterday in an interview, that the decommissioning plan for Olusosun is very much on course, right? It's in phases, it's a process. If you read about the decommissioning of landfills globally, it doesn't happen in 6 months, right? It takes a while. There are different processes, and we have started the process. We have started to convert waste to energy at that site. We have started to convert organic waste to fertilizers, and generate some electricity. So there's a lot of waste sorting, there are waste pickers, the plastic components are being recycled and things like that. So the stench has reduced, right? And, we're doing a lot of work.
So you agree that there is a stench?
No, it's a dump site.
Olive, can you do us a favor when you're going back?
It's a dump site.
I'll pass through there.
It is a dump site in Jesus' name. I mean, we have to. So first of all, there is no dump site that is completely clean, right? The air quality of Lagos is better than most people think. We're not top 100 worst air quality in the world.
They've compared it to certain countries. I think certain cities. I think Mumbai was one of the cities they compared it to.
No, they can't compare Lagos and Mumbai. Even our industrial zones are clean. I mean, the air quality in this corridor, in this industrial zone in Ikeja, is so clean. This is not even something you find anywhere in the world.
Okay.
Right.
All right. I want us to bring up another conversation about the quality of water in Lagos State. I don't know if you saw the video of a young man, Kejigewa, where he was ranting about how he's paying exorbitant fees. And this is a reality for especially people on the island. It's almost like a luxury to get clean water. And the landlords are charging exorbitant rents and yet still not able to provide a decent water, decent potable water. I mean, it's almost unimaginable. You go to the UK and you see people drinking from their tap and you are thinking, what an adoration. You want to die? Because we're not used to that. We don't even imagine that it's possible to drink clean water from the tap. So what is LASEPA, what's the Lagos State government doing about the quality of water in Lagos, particularly on the island? And will there be maybe penalties for those who are charging exorbitant fees and still not able to provide
maybe plans
water?
for future pipe-borne waters, because I remember growing up, we used to have
What part of Lagos did you grow up?
Ikeja or Fala.
Okay. Yeah. So I can tell you that, there was a time when we drank straight from tap water in Lagos, and we're returning to those times. Lagos has evolved a lot, and is clearly an evolving city with the kind of population we have, with the kind of mass, influx of people that we have. I think that we have handled it fairly well. The population explosion has also put pressure on infrastructure, which is where, buildings begin to spring up in areas where government is still planning, right? To plan a city is not child's play. However, for those places where there's no pipe-borne water, the city has started to, put things in place. If you follow the Lagos State Water Corporation and all of their media engagements in the past few weeks, they have launched two new, what's it called now? centers or two new stations, you know, from where they will be piping water. I know Ayobo is one of them, and they are piping water into those communities. Like I said again, Lagos is big, right? However, in the meantime, the city also has a water regulatory commission that ensures that every water you are buying is up to standard. It meets certain standards, you know, certain portability standards. And that regulatory commission sort of regulates all people, everybody that manufactures bottled water, sachet water, and things like that, you know. And that has helped us stem the tide of waterborne diseases. So for houses that don't have pipe-borne water, it's going to be a matter of time, but pipe-borne water will
What time
there.
are we looking at? Because
Yes.
I think I've lived on the island for over a decade now. And a number of the houses I have either lived in or people I know have had terrible water.
But what
It's
has
water
happened?
that is yellow, literally.
So again, so the island is an island that is sitting on high salinity water, right, from the ocean. And you expect that if you dig directly from there, from the borehole, you will have that kind of water. But what then happens is that you have to purify it. There is almost every compound or every community on the island has that water purification system. And that is what people have depended on. What we have also done is to standardize the water purification systems so that people get good water to use in their houses. Is there a trust problem between, you know, a locally purified system and potable water from government? Yes. However, that trust deficit is managed by the provision or the presence or standardization of bottled water and things like that. So I think the city is not sleeping. Lagos is very much on top of it.
I just want us to quickly wrap on this part of the conversation. For those who are currently living on the island that don't have access to decent water, and I know this because I went house hunting for a while, and I only just got an apartment last year. So it was terrible to get an apartment that had decent water. For those who are in these positions and are paying exorbitant, is there any remedy for them?
I think the conversation about exorbitant fee is more private sector.
Regardless of whether they're paying exorbitant fees, they have a right. Exactly, they have a right to decent water.
Yes.
I get you. It's the third time you're mentioning it, which is why I have, had to mention it. But yes, everybody has a right to decent water. What we have done, like I said, is that we make sure that the water you have access to is clean enough. Standardize the purification systems in places where water is not piped. So it then behoves on you to hold your landlord by the neck and make sure that his purification system is up to standard, one. Number two, if you're drinking water, it has NAFDAC regulation, but what's got registration. However, the Water Regulatory Commission also ensures that they do the right thing, even when nobody's watching. Unscheduled visits and things like that.
Water Regulatory Commission, Lagos State Consumer Protection Agency.
Yes.
So we can run and take the landlord or petition our landlord on the island if they don't provide that quality service.
Yes.
Now let's talk about, I want us to go back to air quality just before we wrap this conversation and the plans for Lagos State. Lagos State has this initiative, it's calling the Trees for Lagos campaign. It sounds good, 50,000 trees in 2 years. That sounds very ambitious. And if you go to the best cities around the world, New York has Central Park, they have green areas, and we've seen that this generator fumes also contribute to the bad air quality in Lagos. Are there plans for Lagos to deal with its own electricity now that the laws have been relaxed? Let's generate and go off-grid from NEPA so we can get rid of generators. And how is this 50,000 trees in 2 years? Is it just a PR soundbite, or Lagos State is really serious about this?
First of all,
there's a trust deficit. I have to ask these questions as a journalist.
Okay, so I think it's very clear. So there's an agency called LASEPA, Lagos Parks and Gardens Agency, and that agency is charged with this responsibility. I can tell you that we've gone almost halfway with 50,000 in the first few months of this ambitious target, and this is not to count the already planted trees. We have planted over 100, and this is the ones that government has planted, right? So many roads, I'm sure even WEMCO has trees across the corridor, right? Along that corridor, those trees are maintained by LASPAC. So it's not just planting trees and it overgrows and everything like that. So Agidingbe everywhere. So LASPAC has been doing an amazing work with trees and tree planting in Lagos in different communities. And I don't think that will stop. LASPAC also has parks across Lagos, so we have parks in Obale, in the parks all over Lagos, where people can go sit down, chill, and do all kinds of things. Even at, what's it called now? Osborne. So there's an Osborne Park, you know.
Through Ikoyi.
Through Ikoyi, yeah. And there are quite a number of them all over the place. But because we don't pay attention to it, and we're not, you know, very active participatory citizens, we don't get to know these things. For air quality, we publish data. LASEPA publishes data on air quality every week. And what we've done so far is to make sure that we even measure and monitor. Wherever we find that is a heavy polluter, we sanction, penalize, fine them. We also know that, again, the culture of consequence, you know, we've created that consequence culture where people cannot just pollute as they like. Bigger than or more than any African city, we are more concerned and conscious about air quality. We hosted the Clean Africa Forum, Clean Air Forum last year. And again, you know, Lagos is above a lot of these pedestrian concerns. We're on a big scale, but doing much better than most of the cities, you know.
I really wish that we had more time. I would have loved to us to explore, excuse me, an interrelation or a relation between poverty and, you know, environmental protection, and looking at, especially at the current economic realities and seeing how much that has impacted the work that you do. But we've run out of time.
And noise pollution.
Exactly. Too. That's another important
My
conversation
neighbors
to have.
with their generators and the fumes, you know.
Just buy a gun and kill them.
No,
you don't want the blocks to pick
You don't want them to pick that. Okay, thank you so much.
It was a joke, please.
Thank you so much.
Allegedly.
Dr. Babatunde Ajayi for joining us this morning. We look forward to having you. We hope we are getting your word, and when we call you again, you will come.
Of course.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.